Hello and welcome back. Let's continue learning about kingdom Animalia, and in this video we'll continue with the next phylum, which is Phylum Annelida. Possibly the most famous of the three worm phyla is Phylum Annelida, with these two most popular examples, which is the humble earthworm and also leeches. Now, if you're ready, let's continue and learn about the unique characteristics. When we talk about the unique characteristics, once again, it's easy to imagine one or two of the organisms in your head as we go through this list. So for this one, I'm going to keep imagining the earthworm. All right, so the habitats for annelids, they can be in marine environments, fresh water, or damp soil. Makes sense. That's where we would find different types of worms. And their modes of nutrition is heterotrophic. Depending on their role in that ecosystem, they can be detritivores, which means they eat detritus. Dia orang akan makan benda-benda mati. Examples of detritivore annelids are earthworms and ragworms. But depending on their role in the ecosystem, once again, they could also be parasites or scavengers or predators. Parasites, if it is parasitizing off another organism, okay, dia memudaratkan organism lain, dia parasite. Scavenger, kalau dia sedang makan sisa-sisa yang ditinggalkan oleh organism lain. Ataupun dia predator. Dia sendiri pergi cari mangsa. Dia adalah pemangsa yang cari mangsa. So, leech can be used as an example for predator. And of course, there's more examples out there. Feel free to search for your own organism. The structure of a worm, an annelid worm's body, is it will be an elongated body with tapered end. So once again, tapered end means hujung dia menjadi lebih tirus. Okay, so the anterior end will show cephalization, but with no distinct head. If you're looking at the brain of an earthworm, inside there is like a cluster of neurons or ganglions. Okay, so adalah dia punya nerve cell terkumpul di sana yang membentuk membentuk otak yang simple, otak. And dia punya sensory cells, sensory receptor dia pun banyak di bahagian kepala, mulut dia pun di bahagian kepala. So we say that is cephalization. Even though you look at it, you don't know where is the head, but the stuff is in there. So it is cephalization. The body will be covered by cuticle, which protects the body. And it has longitudinal and circular muscle. So this is where it's different from the previous phylum, Phylum Nematoda. I said in Nematoda, they only have longitudinal muscle, so the way they move is more or less like that only. But with earthworms and other annelids, they have extra circular muscles, which allows them to contract their body. So they can move in newer and more efficient ways compared to nematodes. Once again, look up some videos on how earthworms move. Compare that with the nematodes. It will give you a better picture. And also, annelids have hydrostatic skeletons, so that adds to their mobility. Okay, so we have more pictures here. Of course, I keep giving you the example of the damp soil annelid, which is the earthworm, or the genus name is Ferretima. So this is Ferretima species. Here we have extra information, more pictures of other annelids. We have the marine annelida called a ragworm. Here it is Nereis species. Okay, pretend I am a white person. And here we have a freshwater annelid called a leech. This is something you're probably familiar with if you have ever gone hiking or played around in a stream. Its scientific name is Hirudo species. All right, so moving on. Pictures are always good. We're going to move on to more pictures and more explanations about the unique characteristics of annelids. The basic body plan of annelids is that they are triploblastic. That means they have ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. They have bilateral symmetry, and they are coelomate. So this has true coelom. Dia punya coelom diselaputi atau dikelilingi oleh mesoderm. They have a metameric body segmentation. So this is referring to how their body is segmented. Each segment will be separated by a septum. The digestive tract nerve cords, and blood vessels penetrate the septum and run the animal's length. Apa yang dimaksudkan dengan ini adalah badan annelid dipisahkan kepada segmen. Yang memisahkan segmen itu adalah sesuatu yang dipanggil septum. You see here, this brown thing in the picture, that's a septum. In the annelid's body, there will be digestive tract, saluran pemakanan, nerve cords, dia punya saraf-saraf, and blood vessel, saluran darah dia. So, saluran darah tu tidaklah akan terputus-putus, kan? Dia akan tetap juga bersambung keseluruhan badan cacing itu. Tapi bila dia sampai septum, dia macam ada lubang lah pada septum. It will penetrate the septum. So as you see here, this is a cross section. But down here, we have kind of a better picture of how the whole body of the worm would look like. So walaupun dia ada septum yang bahagikan setiap segment, digestive tract, nerve cords, and blood vessels are still continuous. Okay, move on to other unique characteristics. Annelids have also mastered having a complete alimentary canal, so mouth, anus, different holes. And they have digestive tract straight from mouth to anus. The digestive system is a bit more advanced compared to the nematodes because the digestive system in annelids will consist of a pharynx. Okay, bahagian yang dekat mulut ni, pharynx, mulut dan hidung. Esophagus, yang bahagian kerongkong sudah, crop, gizzard, and intestine. Okay, so it's more advanced. It's complete and more advanced compared to the nematodes. It's starting to form itself into different sections that is going to perform slightly different functions. They also have an excretory system, so worms can excrete. They have metanephridium as an excretory organ that is found in each segment. So dia bukan macam manusia yang dia ada buah pinggang, tapi dia ada organ yang menjalankan fungsi yang sama, okay, untuk filter waste. Organ ini digelar sebagai metanephridium. And it has a nephrostome to remove waste. That means it has a hole for it to pee. The metanephridium is going to collect the waste. The nephrostome is to remove the waste. Ada lubang untuk dia buang air. Okay, so here we have a diagram showing the digestive tract of annelids, starting mouth, pharynx, esophagus, crop, gizzard, and intestine, and anus at the very end. And this is the excretory system of annelids. Every segment of the annelid will have metanephridium. Yang warna hijau ni, kamu nampak pada diagram ni, yang macam tube-tube ini, metanephridium. Ini adalah dia punya excretory organ yang akan tapis bahan-bahan kumbahan. Nephrostome adalah tempat dia akan buang kumbahan itu. So here is also nephrostome, here is also nephrostome. Another unique characteristic that make annelids such nice worms is that they have closed circulatory system. Dia ada saluran darah yang tertutup. Saluran darah, of course, and they have hemoglobin in their red blood cells, kind of like us. They have dorsal and ventral vessels that are connected to the pairs of segmented vessels. Dorsal and ventral vessels means dia ada saluran darah yang di bahagian belakang, macam dekat tulang. Kalau kita sebelah tulang belakang, itulah kita consider dorsal. But on a worm, dorsal is the top. Okay, bahagian atas cacing ada satu. Bahagian perut ataupun bahagian bawah cacing ada satu saluran darah. Okay, so dorsal and ventral. The dorsal and the ventral blood vessels will be connected via the segmental vessels. And annelids have pairs of heart that circle the esophagus. So kalau di sini adalah dia punya esophagus, bahagian sini that you see on this diagram here, these ringed parts, those are the pumping vessels. Walaupun dia tidak nampak macam jantung kita, tapi fungsi dia adalah sama dengan jantung. Di mana dia akan pump darah. It's going to control the pressure of the blood, increase the pressure of the blood, so that blood will keep pumping through the whole body of the organism. So it looks weird, but that is the heart of the earthworm. There are also numerous tiny vessels in the skin of the worm for gaseous exchange. So yeah, the annelids are quite advanced in terms of their closed circulatory system. Again, this is a diagram showing a closed circulatory system of annelids, and we can then move on to the other unique characteristics. The other unique characteristic we need to talk about when it comes to annelids is that their respiratory system is via their skin. They breathe through their skin. Gases will diffuse through the wet skin of the annelids. And on the skin, another thing we should remember is that they have chitinous setae. So these are present in each segment of earthworm and ragworms, but they're absent in leech. Apa benda ni chitinous setae? If we're looking, or setae, I'm not sure how is the proper pronunciation, as long as you know which word I'm trying to read. If you are looking at this worm over here, this is called a ragworm. Okay, nampak yang macam bulu yang keras sikit yang keluar dari tepi tu. Okay, ini adalah diagram hitam putih menunjukkan benda yang sama. The setae are here, yang macam bulu ini. Okay, that is the chitinous setae. So, dia macam bulu, tapi dia keras. On earthworms, we also have that, but they are smaller, but still present in every segment. It will have its function depending on the species, but it's not there in leeches. The leeches are smooth. They don't have the chitinous setae or setae. I should Google how to pronounce that. Anyway, moving on. Other unique characteristics of annelids, they have a simple nervous system, so they can sense things and figure out what to do next. In their nervous system, they have a pair of cerebral ganglia. Cerebral ganglia is this pile of neurons, this cluster of neurons that is at the head of the annelid. This connects to the subpharyngeal ganglia and ventral nerve with segmental ganglia. Apa maksud ayat kedua ni? Bahagian yang mirip otak, yaitu cerebral ganglia, akan bersambung kepada subpharyngeal ganglia. Subpharyngeal ganglia adalah yang di bawah ini. Okay, satu cluster neuron di bahagian bawah ini. Dan kemudian dia akan sambung kepada ventral nerve di bawah via segmental ganglia. That means it has brain. Brain starts up here. Brain continue down here. Brain's nerves connect to long nerves along the body of the annelid. Itu cerita dua ayat ini. Okay, so it's just saying earthworm have brain, have simple nervous system. Itu saja maksud slide ni. And now we're moving on to the next slide. Okay, in this next slide, we're talking about another unique characteristic of annelid is that in talking about the reproduction, annelids are hermaphrodites. So each annelid will have the male and the female organs in the same worm. So they are monoecious. And they usually like to do sexual reproduction. They don't really like asexual reproduction. They also have this thing on them called a clitellum. The clitellum is most obvious in earthworms, but are also present in other annelids. The clitellum will secrete a mucus cocoon or sac that will carry the eggs after fertilization. So after they do the if it's successful, it will produce eggs, and this clitellum here will produce the mucus to carry the egg. Okay. Okay, so that is all the unique characteristics of annelids that I want to tell you about. There's quite a lot, starting from their body plan to how they eat, how they look, what are the features on their skin and inside their bodies, to the reproduction. So banyak juga lah unique characteristic dia, pelan-pelan kamu baca. Now we're going to talk about how are annelids useful to us, to the environment, to other animals. First use of annelids that we like to talk about is usually talking about their medical use and the anticoagulants. So Kamu tengok diagram ni, kamu tengok gambar ni. Ini leech, pacat, or lintah. And it is clinging to somebody's leg. Leeches in history and in some parts of the world now is still used in bloodletting, which is people let the leech go on the body of the patient. The leech will suck the blood from the patient, and that kind of gives the idea that it will remove the bad blood and make the person healthier. That is the logic to bloodletting. What we know happens when leeches bite or latch onto you is they will secrete hirudin or heparin, that is an anticoagulant. That means it will prevent blood clotting and dissolve blood clots. Okay, so darah-darah beku akan dicairkan. Dan itulah rasanya sebab kenapa orang masih suka guna lintah sekarang. Sebab itu yang kita cakap kasih cair darah. So it makes your blood run smoother. I cannot recommend this because I don't know much about bloodletting and whether that's actually useful to your mental condition, your physical health condition. So always consult a doctor before you consider taking these alternative medicines. Anyway, leeches are still cute, and we're going to move on to the next role of annelids. Annelids are very useful in agriculture. For this one, we're going to look at our good friend, the earthworm. Earthworms help in soil aeration or drainage by burrowing. So that means bila cacing itu masuk dalam tanah, dia gerak, dia akan menggemburkan tanah. Bila dia gemburkan tanah, itu maksudnya tanah cukup soil aeration, sudah gembur, and air senang untuk mengalir. So water drainage will be better. By doing this burrowing, earthworms will increase the fertility of the soil by grinding and also digesting the soil granules to provide nutrients for plants. So kalau ada cacing tanah, tanah kita semakin subur sebab cacing tanah akan digest apa-apa yang ada dalam tanah supaya nutrien itu senang diambil oleh tumbuh-tumbuhan. Okay, so those are the two main roles of annelids. We like to use them for medicine. We like to use them for farming. Once again, in the beginning, I told you that these three phylum are usually compared together. There are three types of worms, but they are very different from one another, as you see now. Some of them are very simple, some of them are more complicated, and some of them still eat and poop with the same hole. So between Platyhelminthes, Nematoda, and annelids, the only thing they have in common is that they're triploblastic and they look like worms. But they are completely different worms because in terms of the body plan, segmentation, etc., they can be very, very different. So, kalau kamu boleh bandingkan antara tiga cacing ini menggunakan diagram table ini ataupun cuba buat perbandingan sendiri. Here is also another table that shows the differences between phylum Nematoda and phylum Annelida. You can compare in these aspects. Okay, I won't need to read through every single one of these because you can do that, because you can read, you're literate, you managed to get it this far. And here are the extra videos for this subtopic. These are two videos that I chose. One is from the Shape of Life YouTube channel and the other one is from the BrainScoop. Feel free, go ahead, have a look, compare between these worms and how they move. And that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for your time and your attention, and I will see you again in the next video. Thank you and bye.